Jack Hall is a content creator, and you might know him very well from the manufacturing millennial. And we are very lucky to have you here, Jack. With this, please take it forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm super excited to be here. Let me go ahead and get my screen sharing going real quick. And yeah, let's go ahead and let's kick things off with a couple things. So normally when I'm giving presentations and I'm talking with everyone, I have a live audience in front of me, but today we're doing it virtually. So I'd love for everyone to say hi in chat, and everyone has a lobby chat on the side of their screen. Go ahead and tell me the location of where you're located from, and also your favorite summer food to eat or to drink, your favorite summer food or to drink, and we'll get things going that way. So if anyone can in the chat, go ahead and start saying hi. I'm going to go ahead as well in the meeting lobby, Grand Rapids, and I love barbecue in the summertime. Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and we're going to get going real quick. So my name is Jake Hall. I go by another name called the Manufacturing Millennial. And I'm super excited to be having this conversation with the team here today, where I have such a passion for manufacturing, a passion for automation, where I want to be able to advocate for the future of where our industry is going to go. So let's dive a little bit about my background. So I'm a millennial. I was born the same year the World Wide Web was invented. So I am truly a digital native of how technology is transforming the way everyone works and everyone lives, from at home to their jobs at work. I've been in the manufacturing space for 17 years. My first job was working for a manufacturer when I was 16 years old. And from there, I was sweeping the floors, doing a lot of the dirty and the grunt work. And it really got me interested when I saw the machines, all the automation, all the robotics, and said, this is something that I want to do. So I went and got a manufacturing engineering degree. I got a mechanical engineering degree. I got a minor in biomedical engineering. And from then I graduated. I went into sales automation, where I worked with a lot of manufacturers on vision systems, robotics, motion control, PLCs, AMRs, and AGVs. Awesome. We get a lot of chats now. Perfect. Thanks for getting that set up, Paul. Well, so let's see real quick. We have Indianapolis, New York. Favorite food is sushi. I like that. Toronto, Canada, Hamburg, Germany. Love it. Literally all over the place. Peach cobbler, excellent choice as well. But, you know, over the time in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I think we began to see all of our lives change. We saw that we were working differently, we were living differently. And when I was in outside sales at the time, I wasn't able to go and visit people to face anymore. So I started advocating and talking about the industry online, and mainly on LinkedIn. And then over that time, it just was one of those things where I picked up, where people said, man, I love it when people talk about manufacturing and automation. I love it when people are highlighting skilled trades, how technology like data and cloud and robotics and AI and machine learning are beginning to transform our industry. So then over that time, for the last 3 years, I've been able to have a massive following grow on social media, where I have over 75,000 followers on social media and 80 million views of content that's highlighted around manufacturing and automation. So it's just such a fun thing, where I get to follow my passion of advocating and highlighting how cool this industry is and be able to talk about it at the same time. And I love talking about the future technology, the workforce development, skilled trades, but also what my true passion is I'm a father of 2 young daughters at home, Kaylee and Cassie, who are 5 and 3. And I want them to be able to have the same opportunity that I have in manufacturing as they do. So my goal is to change the way the culture of manufacturing works, in terms of how we begin to move in technology and how we begin to work with around focusing on people. So before we do that, let's dive into manufacturing a little bit. And I think that's one of those things that we always hear is, what's the state of manufacturing? How is manufacturing transforming our industry? Is manufacturing a dying industry in the United States and other countries? Well, the numbers out there are showing that manufacturing is still a massively growing industry, not just globally, but within the United States, where manufacturing right now represents 14.5% of the entire global workforce. We're almost 500 million people in the world work in manufacturing. And we're 16% of the global GDP, which is almost $17 trillion within manufacturing. It's truly impressive. But when we look at manufacturing as a whole, what we're finding on manufacturing, when people say, manufacturing is leaving the United States, that's just not the case anymore. When we look at manufacturing has almost a 8.5% of our workforce is still in manufacturing. You have almost 13 million people working in manufacturing still. And what's great about that is it's creating a lot of opportunity for companies wherever you're at within locally to be able to have future business and future growth. And the one thing that we're facing, though, when it comes to manufacturing is we're not just competing against a lot of times the company down the street or the town over. We're in a global economy. And when we're in a global economy, we need to look at how do we become more productive to be able to compete and to leverage the local resources that we have for us to grow. But the one thing that we're facing right now in manufacturing, I think all of us we have over the past recent years, is the Great Resignation, where starting in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we saw almost 300,000 people leaving the manufacturing industry every single month. And it was massive, right? We all felt it. We all felt that we were doing more jobs than what we were doing before. And it was really impacting how manufacturing was going to happen in the next future years. In fact, we saw a massive impact when we saw that we were averaging 3% unemployment before the pandemic happened. All of a sudden, we jumped to 7%, where we're still facing that right now in manufacturing, where we lost $100 billion in manufacturing output because we simply couldn't fulfill the jobs that we needed to in manufacturing. And the last year, we lost, so we're around $122 billion of lost manufacturing that was potential output simply because we couldn't fulfill the jobs and the people that we needed in manufacturing. And it's not going to change anytime soon. And I'm talking about people and culture right now because that's extremely important to how we begin to leverage technology in the future. In fact, right now, there's around 600,000 open jobs in manufacturing, but they're expected somewhere between starting in 2018, going all the way up to 2035, they're going to have almost 2.4 million jobs vacant in manufacturing because we couldn't fulfill those jobs with new generations. And when we talk about generations, the manufacturing industry is super unique. And this is something that why I just have such a passion for manufacturing is because we truly have a unique opportunity where we have 4 different generations right now working in manufacturing. You have the baby boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, and Gen Zs. And it's interesting because we look at a lot of different sectors and different industries where it might be a lot more younger heavy, where there's a lot more millennials and Gen Zs like working in retail, but maybe not so much baby boomers as much. Or you could have older industries where it's very heavy baby boomer and Gen Xer, and you don't have as much millennials and Gen Zs. But what we are finding within the generations within manufacturing, it's that, millennials 35 and under, according to the Bureau of Labor, represent 33% of our labor force. But what we're seeing right now is the Gen Zs are really having a hard time coming into manufacturing and understanding what that industry has to offer to them. So baby boomers, let's dive into the characteristics of it. They have a strong work ethic. They have a hierarchy structure. They have job stability. The one you need to think about baby boomers and the generations that are out there is baby boomers throughout their entire career. The average baby boomer has maybe 3 to 5 jobs their entire career. Where you look at a millennial, they're going to have 7 different jobs before the age of 30. It's a completely different work structure that a lot of younger generations that are had. And baby boomers have had a strong work ethic. They've had a loyalty to the company. And what we're finding out is that loyalty has then to companies has created a lot of proficiencies with tribal knowledge that they have within manufacturing. But what we're seeing now is that tribal knowledge leaves, and all the information that was stored within those individual people, they're not there anymore. Manufacturing's all of a sudden is beginning to see a massive risk where the data, the information that was once stored within all the workers is not a good plan anymore because people are leaving so rapidly. They need a better way to capture the information, capture how machines are run, capture how we change tools and we start up machines. That information with the changing workforce at ever such a rapid pace needs to change. The Generation X, the Gen Xers, they have a workforce life balance. They're independent workers. They have an amazing and entrepreneurial spirit where that generation started more companies than any other generation before them in terms of startup businesses, and even more than millennials and Gen Zs right now. They are truly the innovative entrepreneurship spirit. Then we have millennials, the idea of collaboration, working together, the true beginning tech-savvy digital native industry that was out there, where millennials began to truly grow up with technology. They saw the transformation of video games. They began to hear the internet and that dial tone that was started out there. They saw their parents wearing pagers, but they never actually wore them themselves. And they're really focused on the career development that they can have to grow and become professional. And then finally, we have the Gen Zs, the young generation, like the 24 to kids who are still in high school and middle school. They truly benefit from multitasking. They're independent learners. They really focus on the people, the impact, the sustainability, the culture of the company as its host when it comes to diversity and inclusion. So when we see these different generations, all these generations, and the one thing I think for us as manufacturers is every generation begins to learn differently. Every generation interacts differently. And what we need to learn is when we want to become more productive, when we begin to want to leverage technology in our daily lives, in the business, and the way we work, we have to do unique approaches, because you might have an older generation who I would say views technology more as a replacement to their jobs versus younger generations who view technology as a way to make their jobs simplified and easier. So let's look at the young generations real quick. What are the future industries that Gen Zs want to be a part of? So let's talk about the youngest generation, the generation that hasn't entered the workforce yet, that's still in middle school, that's still in high school. Where do they want to go as a generation in terms of working? Well, this is a survey that was done out there by Tallow Data, and they went out there and they asked, where is the future industries that you want to be a part of? And at the top, probably as everyone expected, we saw STEM being one of them, right? Science, technology, engineering, math. It's the big thing that everyone's pushing. Health and science, business, marketing, finance, we're going down the list, architecture, agriculture, hospitality and tourism, being a barista at Starbucks. And then at the way bottom of that, we have manufacturing. And so that made me think, why is manufacturing at the bottom of this future generation of how they want to work? And I think one of the big things is a lot of generations don't view manufacturing as a sustainable career. They still view manufacturing, from what they heard from their parents who worked in manufacturing, as this dark, dirty, dull, dangerous industry that doesn't have automation, that doesn't have innovation, that doesn't have technology that's for them. So how do we begin as an industry? How do we begin as the audience that's here listening? How do we better leverage technology, leverage the way we work, begin to make better decisions that are going to attract the future workforce that, and a lot of times, is going to enable this technology? I love the topic that Vatsala talked about earlier, where we talked about how technology and how data is beginning to change and transform. And one of the things I thought was simplified technology, right? Things are a lot easier than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago to implement. Getting information from a machine now is so much easier than what it was even 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And a lot of cases, what we're doing is we're reducing the risk that it takes to try new things. And I think one of the things that's really unique and what's really special about this young generation of millennials and Gen Zs is they don't mind taking risks, but they truly have, going back to what we talked about, independent learners. They love given tasks, and then they love to be able to take those tasks and be able to create a purpose and an opportunity for the company when they're saying, hey, we're giving you something new to transform that's related to what you're passionate about, which is technology, and we want to see what you can do. So before we do that, let's go out there and let's talk about who are these millennials and Gen Zs. And this is tough for me because normally when I'm with an audience, I have a crowd that I can work with, but I'm gonna try and do what I can with the audience here. But there's a couple of things with millennials and Gen Zs that I think, the older generations still love to joke about. And the first one that I think of is this one right here. And in the audience, you're probably looking at it right away and they say, oh, I know what that is. That's a participation trophy. And the unique thing about a participation trophy is people just feel this idea that they need to be rewarded all the time. The millennials and Gen Zs just have this idea of being needed to give. And the one thing that I want to say really quickly is it wasn't us as millennials. It wasn't them as Gen Zs. It was our parents. It was our parents that said, you know what, we need to give them the participation trophy because I want my daughter to also be successful. So let's shift that to another generation real quick. The other thing, is this, the idea of entitlement. We recognize this scene. It's from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And she says, I don't care. I want it now. And the one thing that we think of when it comes to younger generations, or that's joked about a lot, is this idea of entitlement. And I want to challenge you and say, what if we took a different approach with that word? What if it wasn't that millennials and Gen Zs were entitled? What is it if they were just simply aware of all the other opportunities that exist in the world today that didn't even exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Why would young generations want to go work for a manufacturer when they get paid $18, $20 an hour, when they can go work for a Grubhub or an Uber Eats or do flexible work for Amazon and get paid $22, $25, $30 an hour if you're getting good tips? Why would they want to go work for manufacturing? So I think the big thing that we need to realize is when younger generations go and they talk to you and they're asking these questions, they're asking for this amount, it's not like they're entitled. It's just simply that's the other numbers that they're hearing across the other industries. And granted, driving for 5 years or 10 years at Uber Eats isn't going to be a long-term career for a lot of people, right? There's no way to advance within a company. I think that's what makes manufacturing so special, is that you can start as a frontline worker and become an assistant manager or a maintenance tech or a maintenance manager, and then become a plant manager, and you can move up. That's what's truly special about manufacturing for those who've been in it for a long time. And I'm sure a lot of people in the chat can relate to that, is that manufacturing is a career that has a lot of opportunity for advancing. And then the final thing is avocado toast, right? Avocado toast is a stereotype. We love our Starbucks. We love our fancy $6 drink. We love our avocado toast. For me personally, I'm a Keurig guy. I like to drink the Costco Keurig packs. But when we talk about avocado toast is delicious. So you know what? I'll chalk one up there as a stereotypical millennial and Gen Z, because personally for me, avocado toast is wonderful. But when we look at what's important with their jobs, and this is important for us to begin to understand, how do we better leverage the technology around us? What's important for younger generations is they want to have an emphasis on work-life balance. They're social conscious. They're desirable for flexible work. They desire for feedback and growth opportunities, technology proficiency, and the measurable impact in how they work. And I want to cover the last two things that I hit hard, which was technology proficiency and measure the impact in how they work. We oftentimes hear this term of gamification that's out there. And I think gamification is one of those things that's critical to the future of manufacturing. It's beginning to show the impact that individuals can make on their day-to-day jobs, oftentimes in frontline working. And how do we do that? When you look at the average millennial or the average Gen Z, right? 97% of them have played video games in their life. With an average of 80% of millennials and Gen Zs, especially males, play video games on a weekly basis at something. If it's on their app, if it's on their phone, if it's through a computer, if it's through a PC, it's a game console. They love the idea of creating an action and getting a scoreboard, getting an indication, getting statistics back on what they're doing. And when they can see then, when they're doing their daily lives and they're at work and they can see the impact, the gratification, the impact that they're creating, all of a sudden, what they do at home becomes a lot more relatable with what they're doing at work. And having that technological proficiency and having that ability for them to see that their business, the place they work at, is focusing on that innovation and that change, that's going to attract them. A great example is this right here. When we look at the generational divide, there's different ways that we've learned in the past. And one thing that we've learned in the past, and when I was out there and I got my first car, it was a 1996 Ford F-250. I got it for $1,000. Today, man, that would be a steal for the way the current car manufacturing industry is for automotives. But I went out there. My dad said, okay, Jake, let's go out. We got a Haynes repair manual. And this is what I learned, how to repair my information, how to understand what's going on with my car. And this was the way that we learned back then. And on top of that, right, if you wanted to go out there and you wanted to learn a new recipe, what'd you do? You open your mom's or your grandmother's Betty Crocker International Cookbook, and that's how you learn something new. That's how you communicated and you learned. But we're shifting now, right? We're seeing this generational shift of the way we used to do things was all digital. Well, excuse me, was all paper-based. Where now all of a sudden we're seeing a shift to digital, right? Where now if we want to learn something, what do? We hop onto this thing called YouTube or even TikTok, and that's how we learn how to fix brake pads or take off the brake calipers or replace a belt or replace an alternator or change your oil, right? These are all things now that we're learning digitally that the generation before us was all learning paper. Here's another great example, right? You want to learn a new cinnamon roll recipe. What are you doing? You're probably not going on, opening up your shelf and pulling out a Betty Crocker cookbook. You're probably going on Pinterest or Instagram or on YouTube and looking for recipes that give you a very visual look of how the end product is before you even start. And there's step-by-step processes along the way that are guiding you on how to do that, right? And the one thing that's unique about this is from older generations, and millennials are unique because we've experienced both the old paper-based instructions and the digital ones. But for the generations that are older than me, the Gen Xers and the baby boomers, this is truly how they worked for almost their entire career. Where now all of a sudden the younger generations are all learning digitally. And then when they walk into a manufacturer and they're still working on all these paper-based instructions, they're still being told to record data, to write on a whiteboard of how many parts they produced this hour, or guess how long they were down on their machine. Do you think that is relatable to them, where for so long, everything is technology-based, and then all of a sudden they go into where their daily jobs where they're working 8 hours, 10 hours a day, 40 to 50 hours a week, and they don't even experience any of the technology that they did before? That's a shift that we need to see, where technology for an end user, for a manufacturer, is no longer just viewed as a way to be productive and competitive, but it's truly viewed as a means to get the future workforce excited and impacted about what you're doing. Where do we get news and information today? And this is where it's important, right? We're learning everything on a smartphone and a tablet, where before it was a television, radio, print publication. All of our news and information is based on what we get through digital screens now. And so that's the big challenge for us today is, if this is where our young generations are getting the information, this is where you need to be putting your information now to make it accessible and impactful for them. I love using this as a bathroom test, where before, when I travel around a lot, I'm going to put like 100,000 miles this year on Delta. And you go into LaGuardia or Houston or New York or LA, a lot of times now you see on the left-hand side of the screen here, you see stack lights and indication lights to give them status on what the machine is doing, what the productivity of that stall is, right? Is that stall occupied? Is it not occupied? If they're all occupied, there's a screen outside the bathroom that will say, hey, the next stall is 2-minute walk and there's 9 stalls available there, right? All of a sudden, we can get accessibility to anything and everything, including a bathroom toilet. Versus when we walk into manufacturing, we still see companies today that don't even have an indication light on their machine. They're multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment to let them know what the productivity of their machine is running. So all of a sudden, I want you to think of, as a manufacturer, if you were to put the bathroom test on your manufacturing floor right now, is a airport bathroom giving better indication to your machines on if they're running or not, if there's downtime, what needs to happen, compared to your manufacturing floor. And we talked a little bit about this, where we see the transformation of Industry 4.0. And I think everyone here has seen Industry 4.0 before, or the term around it. There's a lot of buzzwords. Industry 4.0 is the fourth industrial revolution. It's this idea of the smart factory, where collaboration of people and machine truly is beginning to take place when it comes to AI and IoT machine learning, but it embraces a lot of different technology that's out there. Big data, autonomous robots, simulation, the Internet of Things, cloud computing, a lot what you're actually going to be talking about today, and what you're going to be hearing about today through a wide variety of panels and discussions. But the one thing that we hear a lot of when it's most relatable to us, if we truly haven't begin to experience AI in our real worlds yet, or it's going to be at the work yet, it's probably we've experienced AI through this thing called ChatGPT. So what I'm talking real quick, if I can in the chat here, what are some famous voices that you are familiar with that just are this famous voice that you just hear the voice and you know it's an iconic voice as a voice actor? Is anyone? I don't know how delayed I am, but are there anyone out there that would say, you know what, that's an iconic voice? All right. I think I'm a couple minutes delayed, but we'll go ahead. So the one thing that I hear of when I hear of an iconic voice is Morgan Freeman. So I thought for the fun of this, I'm going to go on ChatGPT and I'm going to prompt ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, I have this upcoming summit that I'm going to be speaking at. I want you in the voice of Morgan Freeman to tell me why I should be attending this summit. So let's hear it. And on top of that, it wasn't just the ChatGPT, but then I ran it through and had it done in the voice of Morgan Freeman. So here we go.
Welcome, friends. Let me share with you a summit that will ignite the spark of innovation within engineers and professionals alike. The Do More with Data Summit, hosted by Litmus, is an event of paramount importance in the realm of manufacturing productivity. Why should you watch? Because within its embrace lies the key to unlocking the full potential of data in manufacturing. This summit brings together the finest minds, the most brilliant engineers and professionals, who will impart invaluable knowledge and strategies to enhance productivity. This opportunity is like no other. Engineers and professionals, heed the call and witness the fusion of technology and ingenuity. Let the summit be your guiding light on the path to manufacturing excellence. Embrace the power of data, and together, let us shape a future of unparalleled productivity. Join us, and let your skills soar to new heights. Welcome to the Do More with Data Summit.
Right. That's pretty cool. And if you've never had the opportunity to really play with ChatGPT before, it's an amazing tool. Go out there and use prompts and just say, hey, in the voice of Snoop Dogg, write me a rap on why my cat Fluffy is the best cat in the world. And like, it's amazing what that can prompt. Now, granted, that's not related to manufacturing, but what we are learning is that AI is beginning to truly transform how we live and how we work. And when we look at technology now, technology is a means where it could do a lot more for us than it did before. And this is what I'm thinking when it comes to working alongside the worker, where 80% of the processes in manufacturing are still done manually. And this is an example of how technology is transforming the way we work. This is projected augmented reality, where instead of a completely manual process, it's guiding the worker through those processes, and it's watching the worker complete those. So now all of a sudden you could take this information, you could take the data from this type of machine and measure the productivity over time, but not just the productivity of every single operator that's doing that manual task. Where now all of a sudden data isn't just something that you could be pulling from just machines, but it's from the individual as well to better understand their productivity when it comes to manual processes. Another example that I have here is the wearable devices. So this is a barcode reader that's connected to that worker. They can go out there and they can scan on a high-low, and it's just making that worker's productivity easier, where they don't need to get off the machine. They don't need to carry a heavy device around. They can do that scanning at a very simplified way. This is Iron Hand. This is a glove that people can wear where they can hold onto that glove, and it gives them an extra 20 pounds of strength within their arm to be able to complete manual tasks. And what we're featuring here is how technology is beginning to truly benefit the worker. And before, for so long, automation and technology, this idea was that it was to replace the worker. It was to make the companies as a whole more productive and more, I guess you could say, have a higher return on investment, where now all of a sudden manufacturers begin to realize that by leveraging technology, we're making the jobs of the individual worker a lot easier. This is another example right here that I love. This is a company from Plus One Robotics, and they're leveraging AI through robotics to do a very manual task that was once there before, where down in Memphis, Tennessee at the FedEx facility, they were having to singulate all these parcels individually. And what's really exciting now is by leveraging AI, by leveraging information from the vision sensor down into the computer, they can now pick and singulate all these parcels that happen overnight, where before it just wasn't a job that humans wanted to do, but by leveraging this new technology, we're making these jobs simpler. And we're not replacing the workers either. You can see here, we're now, Plus One has this thing called crew chiefs, where it now allows the worker through an iPad or through a screen to be able to select the next product that they want to pick if the robot can't make that decision. So they never eliminated the worker. They're making the lives of the worker a lot easier. I use this as an example as well, where we've seen it before. Boss Dynamics is a really cool company. It's doing a lot of amazing things. But what's really cool now is I call this the dinner table test. If you're out there and you're working in manufacturing, is a young kid going to want to share with his family or share with his friends when they're going out for drinks to say, yeah, I walk around a facility all day and I get information manually? No, they want to be able to collect data in an exciting way. So this is just another example of how a robot can go around a facility. A person can sit inside with a controller, have the robot go and do all those measurements, collect that data in an exciting way where the person's not having to walk around now a 900,000 square foot facility. He could sit inside of an air-conditioned room and enjoy that job. One final video example as I go through my time here. This is another exciting tool, right? We always talk about simplified technology. This is another example of how robotics is being simplified. But before, when we were programming a robot, a lot of times we had a very complex teach pendant. We then moved to the iPad type pendant where we could do drag and drop. But this is where a lot of times we're going with like a no code solution, where an operator can go out there with a joystick, do a manual operation, and the robot will follow through that teach pendant and through that joystick on that manual operation. Just another way of exciting how technology is transforming the way we work. So when we leverage technology, when we leverage data, when we leverage the way to make information and our jobs simpler for the future workforce, what we're doing is we're taking manufacturing that was once a very boring career or a very dull career that future generations didn't want to be a part of, and we're making it now a career that's full of innovation, technology, and that's where we hope to then attract that largest summit or that largest group through science, technology, engineering, and math. So what are some of the big things that when we talk about where we attract and retain a future workforce and how we tie back to data? We communicate purpose, we adapt to their way of life. And that way of life is technology. That way of life is information. That way of life is interacting with their daily jobs and not having that separation. And it's investing in their future. So with that, I'm going to wrap up my time. If you want to, go ahead and take out your phone. You can now take a picture of the screen with that barcode. If you want to, you can connect with me. And I love to have more conversations. With that, I'm going to hand it back to the Litmus team.
First of all, thank you very much, Jake. This was fantastic. This was Morgan Freeman voice. That was again. Now I'm gonna go back and try that again.
Yeah, it's you're gonna get lost for hours when it GPT. It is so much fun.
No, for sure. That should have been the advertisement.
But here's the thing, right? Upcoming is maybe your wife's, or your husband's, upcoming birthday. Give their name out there and write them a song, right? And then all of a sudden, you can write their own song with like 5 of their favorite memories, and you're gonna be the star of the future.
Yeah, I can't wait to try it. And we have a fantastic day ahead of us, and this was the most perfect keynote that I can hope for. So thank you very much, Jake. And we have a next session starting at 6:30. 6:30 my time, which is PST, in next 12 minutes with Bernard from Atos, Eviden as a company. So please do join at 9:30 a.m. EST, 6:30 a.m. PST timeframe. Thank you.